The most important thing for sets to count is effort. In this video, I'm going to give you tools for how to aim for the right amount of effort in strength training. If you're new to strength training, you've probably asked this question: how much weight should I lift in this exercise? Or how many reps of this exercise should I do? Those are not even remotely the most important questions to ask. The most important question to ask if your goal is strength is, how effortful did the set feel? Let's talk about two ways to measure effort. They are RIR and RPE. RIR stands for reps in reserve, and it is a hypothetical. RIR asks, how many more reps could you have done after ending the set? RPE is a number on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being easy, 10 being maximally hard, and RPE asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard did this feel? RIR and RPE have a relationship. Remember, RIR is how many more reps could you have done after ending the set? If you could have only done 1 rep, think about that. That's a really hard set. You've gone to a point of fatigue close enough to exhaustion to where you really could only eke out 1 more rep. RIR 1 corresponds with RPE 9, 9 out of 10, near maximal. Notice how 1 and 9 add up to 10, right? So RIR 2 is not quite as effortful as RIR 1 because now you could have done 2 more reps. It's still enough effort to count for strength, but it's not quite as effortful as RIR 1, and this corresponds to RPE 8, an 8 out of 10. An 8 is not a 9 out of 10, but it's still really tough. And then RIR 3 corresponds with RPE 7. Notice how 1 and 9, 2 and 8, 3 and 7 all add up to 10. Now there's also RIR 0. You end the set with 0 reps in reserve in the tank. Or RPE 10, like maximal. You could not have worked any harder in the set. For a set to count, generally speaking, we want that RIR to be 1, 2, or 3, sometimes even 0, or RPE 7, 8, 9, sometimes even 10. So now that we understand tools for targeting effort, for measuring effort, let's look at how this works out in real life. You start lifting. You keep going. You're starting to feel fatigued. It's starting to get tough. Every rep feels a little harder than the last. Your reps start to slow down. They get uncomfortable. And then you finally stop when you honestly feel like you only had 1, 2, or 3 reps left in the tank, or RPE 7, 8, or 9. That is how you know that that set mattered. That set was enough to make a change to your strength. So how does this line up with the amount of weight or the number of reps, which is what we typically want to know, right? How much weight, how many reps, how does this line up with that? So maybe you ended the set with 2 reps in reserve. Okay, that's enough to make a change to your strength. That's the same thing as saying it was an RPE 8, but it only took you 8 reps to get there. Great. But maybe you ended it with 2 reps in reserve RPE 8 and it took you 12 reps to get there. Also fine. Maybe you ended the set with 2 reps in reserve RPE 8 and it took you 16 reps to get there. All good. The point is this: the rep number 8, 12, 16, 26 does not send the signal to your body to make a change. The number written on the weight, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, does not send the signal to your body to make a change to your strength. The effort that you felt at the end of the set, no matter the weight, no matter the number of reps, is what sends the signal. That's actually what matters. To understand this a little deeper, let's define a word that we'll hear a lot in life and we'll also hear in strength training. The word is failure. Now, we know what failure is in life and we don't want to go there, that's fine. But actually, failure has kind of a positive connotation in strength because failure is that point at which you couldn't do another rep under certain standards. We're going to talk about what those standards are, but basically it's getting to that place of extreme fatigue. As we know, that means it was effortful, so that's a good thing. We want to know about failure in strength training because it's kind of the key to our success in building strength. So there are a number of different types of failure. There's so many ways to fail, right? In a good way. So the first one, which is probably most common for beginners, is called technical failure, and that's the point at which you could no longer do another good rep. So a rep with good form and technique. Your form would fall apart, the wheels would start to wobble, your technique would break down. That, when your technique breaks down, is called technical failure. So we can use our RIR to stay away from, a certain proximity from, technical failure. So when we hear RIR 1, 2, or 3, that could be 1, 2, or 3 reps in the tank before technical failure. Now think about it, you could still keep going, but those reps would be kind of ugly. So we're going to stop a couple reps shy of our form breaking down. This is a hypothetical. It's not super black and white. When you're doing the set, you don't always know exactly how many reps shy of technical failure you are, but you can start to feel this kind of thing in terms of your ability to perform the movement. Is your position changing? Is your, spine changing position? Are your knees changing position? These are all things you can, with experience, really start to pick up on more. Now, there's another type of failure called volitional failure. Volitional failure is that point at which you would have to stop because even though you could keep going, even though your form hasn't necessarily fallen apart, you don't want to because it has gotten really uncomfortable. The muscle burning sensations of fatigue have become overwhelming. Now, we can stop a couple reps, 1, 2, or 3 shy of volitional failure. That means that it's already getting uncomfortable, but we're 1 or 2 or 3 reps shy of it becoming too unbearably uncomfortable. And this is really common when you're using machines at the gym. So when we're using machines at the gym, it's not likely that our form is going to break down terribly much because if you think about it, we're kind of fitted into a machine. The machine is really guiding our movement. There's not a whole lot of balance involved. There's not a whole lot of bending of joints in different directions that can take place. The machine has sort of molded us into the optimal position. And so we could keep going, but my quads are on fire. And it's that point of discomfort, that volitional failure. I no longer have the will to go on. And we can actually stop 1, 2, or 3 reps shy of that and still make a change. And then finally, we have what's called absolute failure. This is the point at which, despite trying to do another rep, having the will to do another rep, you don't because your muscles have failed. Literally, your muscles can no longer generate enough muscular tension to complete another rep. So that is what's called absolute failure. Absolute failure is not as common. It's probably more common amongst people who are into bodybuilding, into increasing their muscle mass to some extent, and who have quite a bit of experience. It's really not that common that even those folks would use absolute failure because when we go to absolute failure, we actually end up creating a lot of fatigue and a lot of muscle soreness the next day, which can interfere with future training sessions. So absolute failure is probably the least common failure that we try to pursue or stay within a proximity of in strength training. So if you know where technical failure is, if you know where volitional failure is, and you can stay 1, 2, or 3 reps shy of those points of breakdown, you are probably taking the set to an adequate amount of effort to make a change to your strength. So why does effort matter so much? Your felt sense of effort at the end of the set directly corresponds to how much of your muscle is recruited by your brain at the end of the set. And basically what we want is we want full recruitment of the muscle. Think about it. We want all of the muscle mass to be involved in the set because that means that the signal to the body to make a change to strength is going to be strong enough for the body to go ahead and make that muscle stronger. If we only have a small percentage or even not quite 100% of that muscle on board for the task at hand, that's not probably going to be enough of a signal to our body to adapt. So this is why effort being high at the end of your sets is more important than how much weight you're lifting. It's more important than how many reps you're doing. It is paramount. And this is why fixed rep or weight prescriptions to a group of people are really pointless. Think about it. For one person, 12 reps with a given weight could feel brutally hard, too hard. For another person, 12 reps with that same amount of weight could feel like nothing. So good thing we don't tell both of these people with very different baselines of strength to do 12 reps or to pick up a 20-pound dumbbell, because the amount of weight that they pick up will determine how many reps they can do, and how many reps they can do with that amount of weight is really just the outcome of how strong they already are. So if the first person picks up 20 pounds and does 9 reps with 1 rep in reserve, they made a change to their strength. If the second person picks up 20 pounds and does 24 reps with 1 rep in reserve, they also can make a change to their strength, but neither one of them should target reps. They should target effort. They should keep going until they could only do a few more reps. And so now I want to add a little bit of nuance, which is that the amount of weight that you're lifting relative to how strong you are does actually matter in a couple of ways. Probably the most obvious way is that a weight that you could only lift 8 times is going to feel heavier to you for every single rep than a weight that you could lift 24 times. If you can lift a weight 24 times, that's a lightweight, and most of those reps in that 24 rep set are going to feel really, really easy. It isn't until the last maybe 5 reps that things really start to feel uncomfortable, like you're approaching that technical or volitional failure. So the difference there is that we actually have to be quite a bit more patient with a lighter weight. We have to be willing to go for longer. Whereas in the first example with the weight that you could only lift 8 times, failure is close right from the beginning. You know, it's probably fewer than 10 reps away. This can make a big difference depending on the person, right? If someone gets a little bit bored kind of quickly, they might be better off picking up a relatively heavier weight and doing fewer reps with it. However, for beginners, especially someone learning an exercise, there's probably more value in picking up that lighter weight to learn the exercise, because that way not every single rep is going to feel challenging or, kind of overwhelming. In fact, most of the reps with that light weight are going to feel really easy, and that's going to free up more of your ability to pay attention to form, breath, and other key aspects of technique that are things that you're learning as you explore this new exercise. Another thing is that everybody has different goals when they come to strength training, and some people have what are called performance goals, and they want to be able to achieve a certain benchmark in a particular exercise. Like they want to be able to, say, deadlift their body weight, or they want to be able to bench press half of their body weight, or they want to be able to back squat their body weight, whatever it is. And that is a certain type of performance goal. And those amounts of weights tend to be quite heavy, at least if we're starting out. So if you have a goal that is related to lifting a heavy weight, you probably want to practice lifting heavy in the lead up to achieving that, because your technique will change under heavier loads than what it will be under lighter loads. So you will probably want to practice that form and technique with those heavier loads to be able to improve your ability to use that form and technique to lift heavier loads, right? So strength is specific, right? We tend to get out what we put in, and we want to practice what we hope to get out. Just wanted to add in a little bit of nuance there because it is all so nuanced. But the big takeaway from this video that I want you to leave with is that effort is the gatekeeper to your strength. And this is kind of great news, because effort doesn't cost any money. We don't have to go out to the store and buy effort. Effort doesn't take up any space. We don't need special shelves to put our effort. Effort comes from inside. So it doesn't really matter as much what kind of weights you have and how heavy they get. It doesn't matter nearly as much as when you pick that weight up and you start doing an exercise with it and you're completing reps of a set. It matters so much more when you end that set, and that you end that set having it feel like it was an RPE 7, 8, 9, or even 10, probably not 10, right? Or RIR 1, 2, 3, probably not 0, but occasionally, right? It's gotta feel hard. And the reason I think this idea of effort being so key is so crucial in strength training is that for many people, one of the biggest barriers to strength training is time. If you are short on time and you only have a little bit of time to train, but the time you're using to train, you're not actually taking your sets to a high enough level of effort, you're kind of just going through the motions, spinning your wheels. You are creating a lot of noise, but no clear signal for your strength to adapt. You're really just wasting your time. And the other reason it's so important is that there's nothing more motivating than results. And when you start to see those positive results, those are incredibly deeply motivating. So if we're leaving reps on the table, if our sets are not effortful enough, we won't see those results, we'll be demotivated. Our training will become less consistent, and there can be no strength achieved without consistency. Accumulate enough challenging sets per week, watch the video I created on that, and make sure those sets are challenging. If this video has reframed how you think about strength training, tell me about it in the comments. And then check out my podcast, the Practical Fitness Podcast, where I take a look at these same topics, but from a different angle. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you next time.